I'm Eitan Weinstein.
And I'm Naor Menninger. And you're listening to Two Nice Jewish Boys.
This podcast is made in collaboration with the Jewish Journal.
Think about your favorite food. Whatever it is, it's probably safe to say you think it's tasty, unless you're some sort of foodie masochist. But do you think it's really tasty? Objectively tasty? How much of our taste is biological, and how much is constructed, culturally, socially, maybe even morally? It's exactly questions like this one that have accompanied Ruthie Rousso on her lifelong journey to discover food. Ruthie Rousso is a well-known Israeli chef and food journalist. She's the daughter of Nira Russo, who you might call Israel's Julia Child, and she has just released her first cookbook, Ruthie Rousso's Kitchen. Ruthie joins us today to talk about her personal love story with food. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so before we get to the episode, guys, the Chosen One card game, these guys are our sponsors. Check them out at thechosenonegame.com. And we're going to play a little bit of it. It's really, really funny. Basically, it's question and answer cards that you match up, and you get these hilarious combinations. So we're going to do a little bit. I've given you all answer and question cards.
Okay.
And we're going to hope that it's not too embarrassing.
So the question is the white one.
Okay.
So you grab the white one.
Okay.
So you ask us a question, and then we'll see which one's the funniest answer.
Okay. No, this is not good.
No, you should do it randomly.
No, because...
Okay, this is a good one for me. A proper Shabbat dinner wouldn't be complete without...
Pizza-flavored Pringles.
Oh, this is how you play. Now I just understood.
Another one. Pull another question.
Wait, I want to answer that one too.
Okay.
What is it? A perfect Shabbat dinner wouldn't be
complete without...
Schmaltz for lube. I don't even know what schmaltz is.
Schmaltz. Ruthie will explain to you later.
Just add, and it should be kosher.
Just add Moses' little bro Arnon.
And it should be kosher.
Just add fake news, and it should be kosher.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, the last one. This time, Eitan pulled a question.
I'm gonna read the question. I dodged the IDF to focus on...
Oh, no. Chopped human liver and onions.
Dai Dayenu.
All right, guys. So check them out. The Chosen One game. Yeah, it's just a taste. They have like 400 cards in here or something.
Okay, so. I know what we're gonna do after the interview.
The Chosen One game. Thechosenonegame.com. And guys, for listeners, 2NJB. Use the promo code 2NJB, and you get a nice discount.
Yep.
So check them out. Thechosenonegame.com.
And now. First of all, explain to Eitan what schmaltz is. It's basic.
Schmaltz is the fat from a chicken.
Or any.
Oh, wow. That was like...
Yeah, from a chicken or any poultry. Or I mean, it can be from a duck or a goose. But
yes. In Europe, you would use it like it was like butter, right?
Yeah, because this allows you to use some sort of a formed firm fat instead of butter. When you cook something with meat. And
so it's basically like the lard version, the
Jewish
version of lard.
Exactly. Wow,
okay.
It's a better definition. I think I should go.
But it's probably not as tasty.
It's so good.
Schmaltz is good?
Oh, it's amazing.
I'm so happy I can use the word schmaltz now
so
and know what
times.
it means. Schmaltz is good?
It's like the basic, most essential ingredient in one of the most essential
like
ones.
Eastern European,
Jewish.
Eastern European Jews, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's good with everything. I mean, like Hungarians, they use it in every dish, even in sweets.
Really? Because I have to say, the first thing I imagine, like schmaltz is almost an onomatopoeia. An onomatopoeia is a word that, describes the sound it makes. So it's almost an onomatopoeia, and the first thing that came to mind was the jelly from the gefilte fish. That's what I thought it was. I was like, schmaltz, that's schmaltz.
It's the same in its weirdness,
but more tasty.
But it's good, yes.
Okay.
Once you put it in your mouth, it's just completely different.
I like how that's a parameter of food. Weirdness. It's the same in its weirdness.
So tell us about your TED lecture. How did you come up with that?
Okay, I think it took me several years to work on this TED because it's something that built gradually. I mean, I travel a lot, and I get to see many people who work with food. I mean, it can be in agriculture or restaurants or just people who enjoy food, and that happens everywhere. And I just dig into their plates all the time. I mean, that's my thing. Like, I go to restaurants and I ask strangers to try from their dish. And
Really?
I really
You
do
have
that.
to like get some pretty angry responses.
I dress nicely,
Okay.
so they're more
Or men that think you
open-minded.
hit up on them, and
Yeah.
that also must have happened. Sexual harassment. They call the cops. But
Some
Whatever
lady
it
has
takes.
to-
No, it's
some
just
Israeli chutzpah.
I can't control it. When I see something that I'm interested at, maybe I won't try it. I mean, I won't ask them to try it. I would say, "What are you having? Is it good? Should I have it?" So at some point they would say, "Do you want to try it?" I would be yes.
Yeah, that's actually a perfect example of Israeli chutzpah. Because, like, in America, it's considered horribly rude to even look at someone else's plate, let
Yeah.
alone ask
No,
to
I
eat
don't
it.
look. I stare.
It's just stare. You gonna finish that? Nice. Okay, so this TED
So
talk.
yeah, wait.
is-
So I was
Yeah.
I was traveling, and I started noticing that I get a lot from looking at plates. I mean, I understand about broader things than just what you're having and if it's good or not. I mean, you can look at a plate and understand something about the financial situation of the person who's eating this, right? I mean, you can understand, you can tell if they're rich, if they're poor, if they're vegetarian, if they're keeping their weight. You can understand things about them, but you can understand things about general stuff. I mean, you can see if there are imported products in the plates. You can see if it's rich, if it has diversity, if it has many fresh produce. You can learn a lot from a plate. And
not only about the person eating it, but about
right,
the
about the
context of the
situation,
country.
exactly, the
Yeah.
situation around the person.
Yeah.
And then at some point I was working on a piece about Ethiopian food. It was related to an American star chef, Marcus Samuelsson, who had just opened his first Ethiopian restaurant in New York. It was called Mercato 55 in Soho. And since I worked in New York during the time that he was at his most fame, I was really excited that I'm going to speak to Marcus Samuelsson himself.
You worked as a journalist?
No, I worked as a personal assistant to Chef David Burke, who was then the rising star of the American culinary. Crazy years. I was working and going to culinary school at the same time. And Marcus Samuelsson was at the top 10 chefs in New York at that time. But when I mentioned it to my editors that I'm working on a piece about Ethiopian food, and I'm going to speak to Marcus Samuelsson and this new restaurant, and they're serving high-end Ethiopian food, and I just encountered the same jokes over and over. They were like, "What are they serving there? Empty plates?" Or they would just say, "Ethiopian food is not tasty." And
To our audience, what is Ethiopian food?
Well,
I
first
guess
of
many
all,
Americans don't know, right?
It is based on thousands of years of this very ancient culture. So when people say, well, it is a poor country and the food and the culinary is based on a poor culture. So it's not true, because there were so many years that Ethiopia was an empire. So, and they were still eating injera. Injera is the Ethiopian bread. It's a flat bread made of teff. Teff is, how do you say that?
Some kind of grain.
Yes,
Like
it's some
wheat.
kind of a grain.
It's
exactly.
similar to the Yemenite bread, right?
No,
like
it's similar in the look. It looks a little bit like pancake with the
yeah.
bubbles
Yeah.
and the texture a little bit, but the flavor is completely different. I mean, it's much richer, a little sour. It's made out of sourdough. And it has a very distinct flavor that you might necessarily like at first try. But then I say, who liked sushi at first try? I mean,
Yeah.
eating raw fish is I mean, if you didn't grow up with eating raw fish, you didn't necessarily like sushi.
The seaweed is sometimes even more difficult for people because it's got that like really.
Yeah, I can tell you're younger.
Yeah. But to give our listeners a point of reference, and maybe I'm completely like revealing how, I guess, prejudiced I am, or not racist, but like generalizing. But it's kind of similar Ethiopian food to Indian food in a way. No?
What? No.
No?
No.
No. Wait, it's not.
Spice. It's
got the same. It's got similar spices.
Something with the spices has. I can understand why you're saying that.
As an American who knows nothing about food.
No, I can understand why you're saying that. Obviously, talking about Indian food is a little difficult because India is almost a continent. I mean, the diversity in India is like you can find so many foods there. But there's something about the spices that I can understand why you see some resemblance. Yes. Yeah.
But to someone like who doesn't have any reference to it, maybe that's like a good place to imagine. But
so back to New York.
Yeah.
Yes. So then I wanted to see, since I got those reactions from editors and friends about Ethiopian foods, I wanted to check for myself. I went online. I checked first in an Israeli search engine and then in the New York Times restaurant search engine. And even though both the Israeli one and the New York Times had so many categories and subcategories to find different restaurants, like you can find Italians in Israel, you can find Italian, you can find Japanese, you can find Mexican, whatever. In the New York Times back then, I'm talking about 10, 12 years ago, you could find Sicilian food. I mean, it was not Italian. You could go to the regions.
Tuscan, yeah.
But I couldn't find Ethiopian food. It was under a huge category of African cuisine. And when you look at Africa, I mean, it's a huge continent. It's 20% of the dry land of the world. You have like at least 4 or 5 different kinds of seas bordering the continent. Different climates. You have deserts. You have subtropical. You have tropical. Obviously, it's not one kitchen, okay? But even the New York Times, the most liberal newspaper, they didn't have a category for Ethiopian food. And this was, people, whenever I do my lecture or even in my TED Talk, I always talk about Ethiopian food. It's my thing, okay? But I use it just as an example because in Israel, for example, you have, whenever I want, at any point of the day, if I want to make Japanese food, I can go to any 24-hour supermarket, to the Asian department, and buy whatever Asian food, the ingredients that I want, and make sushi.
Yeah.
If I want to make Ethiopian food, you can find any of the ingredients that you need in a supermarket. And then I ask people, do you know how many Japanese live in Israel? Less than 1,000. One of them is my brother-in-law, by the way.
Does he make good sushi?
He's amazing. He's a great cook.
Okay.
And how many Ethiopians live in Israel?
Like 100,000?
A little over 150,000.
So where do they buy the ingredients?
It's very difficult for them and it's very expensive because there's no competition. Like the teff, for example, for 1 kilo you pay 18 shekels, which is what, like $5?
18, yeah.
Yes, $5 for a kilo of the basic flour they need to make their $5.
Just for comparison, a kilo of flour is like less than $1, right?
Right, it's about $1.
$1.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
And this is 5 times, and they're not the richest community in Israel. The most basic ingredient for their kitchen is so expensive.
So how do you explain that? Like, why is that?
You want to dig deep into this?
Yeah.
I think in many ways the world is like a huge classroom, and every country has its popularity rank that is usually according to its financial, its army, its strategic, its touristic rank as well. Ethiopia is at the bottom list, and this affects how much money we're willing to spend on Ethiopian food and how open we are to try it, to learn to like it. We don't necessarily like food the first time we try it. We learn to like new flavors. So I think that's at least one of the problems in here.
First of all, couldn't it be that objectively, like French cuisine, couldn't you say that objectively French cuisine is richer or more refined than Ethiopian, for example?
No, I can't say that, first of all. And second, who cares? You can make it however you want. Like if you go to a sushi place in Israel, they serve sushi, with the 3 dips. You get like teriyaki, spicy mayo.
Yeah. In Japan, they don't
and
serve
then,
it with mayo.
And then we eat it like we eat hummus, right? We take the sushi and we dip it in the teriyaki and then in the spicy mayo. And this is how we eat it. This is how Japanese.
So good.
This is how I always say when Japanese hear how we eat sushi, they're like, and I'm like, you should try it. It's really good this way. So if we wanted to like Ethiopian food, we could have made adjustment to make it fit to our flavor. I mean, the thing is, I'm going back to Marcus Samuelsson. When I finished writing this piece, that was, it had a lot of thoughts about how people reacted and about what I found in the search engines. And he closed the restaurants before I published the piece.
Really?
Yes.
There just wasn't enough. There wasn't enough interest.
Yes. 6 months later. I think it was about 6 months.
And it was like a high-end restaurant, right?
I think it was the first high-end Ethiopian restaurant in the Western world.
And today, what's the situation in New York, just for perspective?
From what I've checked, I haven't seen anything like it since then.
Really?
Yes.
So here it's big here in Tel Aviv.
It's big, but it's still not high end. I mean, we have some new restaurants that are trendy, like Balinjira, that are trendy.
I don't eat Ethiopian food. But
what's the one in Kerem
really
Teimani? Maganda?
Yes, Balinjira.
No, but isn't there Maganda or Magenda?
Balinjira.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
No, but okay, anyway.
I think that's the name of... no.
Sorry.
But that's the famous one in Kerem Teimanim anyway.
Okay.
Maybe there are
Balinjira?
more. Balinjira. It's really good.
I wanted to ask actually, is that the best one you think? What's like your favorite?
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
That's my favorite because they did something with the ambience as well. I mean, you go there and it's cool.
It's interesting because I don't see he has a girlfriend, right? And they go to restaurants a lot, and I don't see him in the end of a work day. He goes to his girlfriend and he's like, "Hey babe, let's go out. Maybe we try this new Ethiopian place." She would slap him. And
are you kidding?
No,
we were just at and I mean, again, this is going back to the Indian comparison, but we're just at 24 rupee, which is like this really, 24 rupee.
Sure.
It's this like Indian place. It's pretty grungy. Everybody sits on the floor. It's kind of like for all the Israelis who go to India after the army and travel and do this like trek around India and eat at these like, really poor places.
Right.
So it's kind of trying to replicate that.
Right.
And it's really good. It's tasty.
Yeah, Indian food is tasty.
You would love it. Take her. She would love it.
So
you
we'll
would
go.
love it. And the food is healthy and good and it's delicious and it's a fun place. You should go there.
What did you learn since some years have passed, I guess, since that New York experience? What did you learn since on your journey to decipher human taste?
First, I started with I started digging deep into the social aspects of our personal taste to see how we actually learn to like things. We force ourselves to like things. This is why when you say, well, maybe this cuisine is just better. I mean, it's possible. But if we wanted to like the Ethiopian food or any other kind of cuisine, we would have learned how to like it. I always give an example of cigarettes. I mean, people who smoke, they had the first cigarette. It was gross. They choked. It smelled bad. It wasn't healthy. And still, they lit another one, which was as bad as the first one. Probably the third was as bad as well. And suddenly, they get hooked and they love it. It's the same thing with beer. First time you have beer, it's disgusting. I'm not even talking about coffee. I mean, kids don't like coffee. It's bitter. We learn to like it because it's cool, because it's a status, and I think in some ways, today, Ethiopian food in Tel Aviv, it's like, you said it about moral. Maybe we learn to like it because we feel that it's morally right. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, our taste can develop and change according to things we tell our taste.
Yeah.
But so I get is that PR has a lot to do.
Sure.
So how
Sure.
much of taste is, like, back to the question that how much is actually biological? Like,
In
because
percentage, I'm not sure. I just say that a big part is social, but
Yeah.
there is a part that is biological. Because then I ask the question, well, we still feel taste. I mean, if it was just social, then food would be just about the colors or about you would get like eat brand names, and it won't be.
yeah,
It would have nothing to do with our taste buds. But we do have taste buds. So, what do we like to eat in terms of our biology? And there is food that we like to eat from a biological point of view, but it's very basic because our biology is very basic. It's not sophisticated and it's not educated.
So what tips do you have for a foodie who wants to enrich his...
So the things we like to eat from a biological point of view, and that's everyone. That's the Japanese, the Ethiopians, the Israelis, everybody. We like to eat sweets, we like to eat salt, we like to eat fat, and we like to eat crispy food. And I have a whole explanation about why we like to eat crispy food, but I'll just sum it up. This is, for me, this is like the food safety, the most primitive food safety. I mean, this when food is crispy, it usually means that it was exposed to a very high temperature and therefore it is safe to eat. So we like these 4 things. So if you want to make something tasty, just incorporate these 4 things into your food.
But can I, like, if I live in New York or in
Yes.
Tel Aviv and I want to have, like, new experiences with food, how do I go about it? Like, where should I go? What's in the 90s or 2000s? I don't know when was that experience you told us about, but it was Ethiopian. But today, what are, like, the upcoming, interesting, exotic cuisines someone should try and check out, you think?
First of all, I think African cuisine is definitely an interesting upcoming kitchen because unlike many other countries, it is still untouched. I mean,
Each country in Africa has its own...
unwesternized.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, it
There's no
obviously
cream
it
cheese
had
in
the
it.
effects of colonialism, of many years of colonialism, but even that is interesting. Like, I've been to Ethiopia, and
They have a lot of pizza there, right? And
Yes,
some of them actually
exactly.
speak Italian.
yes,
Like
and
the
a lot
older
of Italian
generation.
food.
They
You
were
see-
conquered by Italy.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know what I was gonna ask.
Okay, let's go back in time a little bit.
Okay.
So you grew up in a household where food was very present, right?
Oh, yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
First of all, I was born in the States. I was born in Boston. My dad is American. My mom is Israeli. After one winter in Chicago, she told my dad, please have fun, enjoy this weather. I'm back in Tel Aviv with me and my sister. I'm going to the beach in February. You can stay here in the snow. And my mom wasn't, I mean, she didn't come from a house of people. My grandmother wasn't cooking. But when she was in New York, my dad comes from a Turkish family, and he came from a house of lots of food and really, really good food. And she learned to cook from his family, from him. He started taking her to restaurants. Suddenly she discovered this entire world.
Where was she born?
She's from Tel Aviv,
And her parents?
Poland.
Explains everything.
And Tel Aviv didn't have much to offer during the first years of the
Right.
country.
Neither Poland.
But you can still see like Polish origin people who do cook. But
Yeah.
my grandmother wasn't one of them
Okay.
anyway. She made 3 things with a lot of anxiety around them, and that's it.
Okay. Everything's
good-
with a lot of
Yeah, that's a
anxiety
good
when you're
word to
Polish.
describe Polish food. It's anxious.
So, and then she started learning. She started taking some classes when she was in the States. She started taking some cooking classes, and she was always really talented and an excellent writer. And when she got back to Israel, she offered Haaretz. She offered some newspapers to write a food column, which wasn't a thing then. I mean, we didn't have food columns in the newspaper. And she started writing for Haaretz, and I remember I was about 6 years old. And I think in 2 weeks, it became such a big thing. And
This is the 70s?
this is the beginning of the 80s.
Beginning of the 80s.
What was
Yes.
she writing about? Like local restaurants or
No,
or
she was
food
writing
in general?
recipes.
Ah,
How did she come
recipes.
up with the recipes?
She started...
Experimenting?
experimenting, but she also brought, I mean, we didn't have anything here, so she started bringing like American food and French food and Italian food and making it here with the local ingredients and just
And you were the guinea pig?
yes, but we didn't appreciate it. Me
No?
and my sister, yes, my sister and I, we didn't appreciate it. We were bad eaters, really, really bad eaters. My sister especially, she used to, like, my mom would make Chinese food and my sister would spend an hour and a half just separating everything on her plate. So she'll have like corn, rice, noodles.
the anxious food made you anxious eaters.
So yeah, I don't think I appreciated what I had until I left home. I'm being honest. People kept asking me, how does it feel to be Nira's daughter? How does it feel to be Nira's daughter? And I was like, you don't understand. Like, you don't really, I thought everyone eat this way, that every day you have something new, that suddenly this, someone delivers this new vegetable that they have here in Israel and they want her to develop recipes. So for a month and a half, you eat this weird fruit or weird vegetables. And like she makes pasta with it and she makes casseroles or she makes chicken. Like you just eat it over and over again with so many varieties and different.
It all makes sense to me now that like you talk about trying all these different foods and this is kind of how you grew up. What's the wackiest thing that she ever brought home that you remember that did she ever make you eat snails or?
No, she's not that adventurous when it comes to and we all like very pro animals, so it was not about like monkey brains and stuff. She was in China and she did bring home crickets, but they were live.
And you ate them?
No, she brought them as pets.
Ah,
Actually, my parents just came back from China, and turns out it's a big hobby there.
Yes,
Pet crickets.
Yes,
pet crickets.
Yeah.
I don't know how she brought it on the plane, but we had crickets for a while.
wow.
So in terms of like the weird stuff that she made, yeah, there were many. Like I don't know the name in English. It looks like a cherry with it's a fruit, the yellow fruit that looks like a cherry, and
Yeah.
it has like a.
It's a power food now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Africa, they grow it. I don't remember
Apricot?
its
I don't
name.
remember the name. Yes.
Like
But-
it's as
it's
small
some
as
kind
a cherry.
of a berry.
Yeah, it's a
some
berry.
kind
It's
of
a yellow. Now
berry.
it's a superfood,
very-
power
right.
food. It comes in this shell, which is like paper,
Right. Right.
and it's gorgeous. We'll find it.
Yeah, we'll Google it.
I know
and
someone who
find it.
imports it to Israel, so we'll find it.
They grow it in Israel.
He imports it to Africa.
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
Wait, you said you're very like pro animal. Are you vegetarian or vegan?
No, but we do like instead of meatless Monday, we do meat Friday. We eat meat.
One day
Yes.
one day a week with meat.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
We eat meat
like
once.
blasphemy in America.
Yeah, so one day with energy, a week.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so crickets. And,
Did you ever eat a cricket?
No.
There
No.
was some crickets in the office the other day and people were eating them.
They're
That's just-
kosher.
So, but in the end of the day, you didn't rebel. You went and
Oh, I tried. I tried. After the army service, I was writing in a newspaper. I did the army service in the IDF spokesman's office. And it was very intense. And I just wanted to be a waitress. I mean, after, like, I did national service, also very, a very intense, some very intense years between national service and the army service. And then it was during all the terrorist attacks in
first
Israel.
Intifada.
No, I think I'm younger than you think.
Okay. No, because they say the 80s.
That was
No,
offensive.
the 80s I was 6.
Yeah.
In the army, it was 96.
That's
It
the
was
the
right
army.
after.
Okay.
It was the second, closer to the second Intifada.
My math is horrendous. Yeah. It's my fault.
Now he's trying to cover up. He has excellent math. No, I'm kidding.
I'm just gonna check my hair afterwards.
So you
So yeah, and then I told my mom, I just want to leave everything behind and be a waitress.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to New York.
To a Polish mother saying
She
such-
loved it. Yeah, of course. She almost killed me. Seriously. This was probably the biggest fight I
Be
had
a waitress
with
till I die.
I always
Mother.
dreamt of you being a waitress.
her. Boobale.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, I left everything. I went to New York. I was waitressing for 3 weeks on those little boats that go to the Statue of Liberty, you know?
Really?
That's the
Best-
lowest of the
ferries?
low.
Best, yes, the ferries. Best 3 weeks in my life. Seriously. I mean,
Does-
being a waitress is a dream come true. I wish I could go back to.
First of all, they have
Right.
restaurants on those boats?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a prom, like after high school, like they rent
okay.
one of those boats and we go travel.
And
in
you
the-
like serve champagne and like...
They can't drink, so we serve
okay.
cranberry and soda. Yeah. But,
Wow.
Good tips.
Good tips. Yes.
So you worked on those boats for 3
3
weeks.
And then,
Wow.
yes, best time. Really.
That's
best time.
amazing. Just going back and forth from the Statue of Liberty
Exactly.
Like
Yeah,
that same
circling.
route.
Yes. Yes.
for 3 weeks. Wow. You must have been sick of the Statue of Liberty.
I was, no,
No?
I couldn't care.
But I guess,
I
yeah,
just,
3 weeks isn't that much.
yeah.
Okay,
you're
and then what happened?
But then a friend of my mom contacted me because my mom told her that I'm in New York, and she said that this famous chef is looking for a personal assistant, and maybe I should meet him. And I said okay. And my English
Did
was
you have any experience in...
nothing and I didn't have any experience except in being in the IDF spokesman's office.
Did you have kitchen service in the idea?
Not
No?
at all.
And 3 weeks of waiting tables on
Exactly.
ferries.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Okay.
I was as prepared to life as a girl from Ramot HaShavim, which is the smallest village in Israel, in the big city, meeting a huge chef, not understanding anything and not even speaking English.
Yeah, I have to
so
say
good.
on your Wikipedia page, right, in Hebrew, there's like you were born in Boston and grew up in Ramot
HaShavim.
HaShavim, and they're
Yes.
both linked, right? So you hover over the Boston thing, and there's pictures of bridges and skyscrapers. And then you move over to Ramot HaShavim, and it's a bush and a car. It's like, wow.
Yes, that's my life.
So he took you.
He was so desperate.
So this is David
Yes,
Burke.
that's David
who,
Burke, yes.
Who tell us about him because we're completely ignorant.
He's
to-
he when I was working with him, he was the chef of the Smith and Wollensky restaurant group and the chef of Park Avenue Cafe, which was then it was probably one of the best restaurants in the city. He was called by the New York Times the most imitated chef in the U.S.
Wow. Is
yeah,
he Jewish?
Not at all.
No.
No.
Okay.
he's
I was just
Irish.
wondering how
Darn.
the connection,
No.
like, how did the connection happen? How did she know someone who knew someone?
Because she was doing some benefits with American Chef, so
okay.
she met him. She was working with some of.
So he's like, you're accepted? And then the
he
morning
said
after...
it was a Thursday, and he said come Monday, or it was a Friday, and he said just come on
Okay.
Monday.
and Monday...
And I swear I didn't say a word during the interview. He was just really desperate. Like every PA he had either wasn't doing a good job or didn't last too long, and he just, or maybe he had a good intuition because we stayed for several years, and I thank him in my book. He thanks me in his.
Wow, that's amazing.
How
So
did the first day look like there?
I quit. The
What?
first day I quit. Yes, because I said he asked me to write an email to someone, and he just left the office. And my English was very bad, and it took me about 3.5 hours to write this one sentence. I'm not exaggerating. I mean, it was just one sentence. That's it. It took me about an hour and a half or 3 hours or whatever. I mean,
do
just
you remember the sentence?
it was just like, thank you for your lovely note. Please call my office to schedule a meeting. I'm not kidding. This was the email. Okay.
Wow.
But it took me forever, and I was shaking when I had to press send. Like,
Yeah, this was it. There was no Google Translate.
right.
Yeah.
And I sent it, and I was like, I can't do it. Like I would answer the phone and I would get so nervous that I couldn't understand what people are saying on the other side. I was like, just can you repeat this? Can you repeat it? And
so
I
you
figured,
quit. Wait, so at the end of the first day, you were like, "I'm sorry, but I quit." And
yeah,
what
I
did he say to you?
told the girl from the office who was doing, her name was Denise, and she was trying to teach me what to do, and she left me at some point, and I was there at the office by myself. And towards the end of the day, I told her, "Listen, I can't do this. I mean, it's too much. I'm not qualified for this job." And she just looked at me and she said, "You're qualified. Don't worry." I said, "It will get better. Don't worry."
So then you spent how many years with him? You spent
Over 2 years.
wow.
Yes.
And he taught you all the essentials.
And I fell in love with the restaurant business. I mean, this was, first of all, moving out of my house. I started missing my mom's food and realizing that food is not automatically served when you're hungry. I mean, when you grow up with a mother like this, you think that when you're hungry, food is served. And suddenly you realize that when you're hungry, you would stay hungry unless you make some food for yourself. And
I don't think you realized that yet, Eitan.
No. Too many restaurants.
In Florentine.
Yeah.
so I started missing my mom and missing her food and falling in love with the restaurant business. I mean, it's just the sound of a good service in a restaurant. I still love it. Like when you hear, it has a flow when you enter a restaurant and
You don't have that here.
No, you really don't.
You really
Sometimes
don't.
you do. Sometimes you do, but it's not.
That's very rare.
The
But it's very
clanging
rare.
of the dish,
You hear like the ting of the cheers, people cheering. You hear a woman laughing, and you hear the
You
force on the
basically, I
plate,
feel like
and
what
you
it
hear
is
the
is
music
you
and
don't hear
anything
high
bad.
tension. You
Exactly.
don't feel like this
That's it.
bad tension, which is what you feel every restaurant here.
That's
it's
it.
just like
You're so right. You don't you
it's-
don't get that tension.
Yeah.
And it's like music to my ears still, even these days. And I knew I want to be in the restaurant business. And in New York, you can't be in the restaurant business unless you go through all the stages. You have to learn the kitchen, you have to learn the front. So I started spending some time in the kitchen in Park Avenue Cafe. And at some point, I enrolled to the FCI, which was then the FCI. Today, it has a different name, the French Culinary Institute in Soho. Crazy year. I mean, working every morning, 8 to 5, and then running downtown and going to school 5 till midnight, day after day after day. It's just very, very difficult and very, very intense.
and so you'd be working in the day, learning at night,
right.
and you had like zero time to yourself.
Zero.
Wait, that's exhausting. This is for a year or 2
Yes,
years?
1 year.
1 year. And then so you went to study actual like how to cook.
Right.
It's culinary school.
Right.
Okay. And before that, was David Burke kind of like mentoring you or
I had
during?
to learn everything backwards because I had to like write his recipes and like follow him around when he does like he would do like recipe development, and I would be in the kitchen and like write down what he does.
Wow,
or
that's
I would
amazing.
like edit, work on his books and work on his. At some point, I started writing because writing is my thing. I mean, I'm the worst PA. You just have to understand. I have other qualities that compensate for the fact that like my administrative skills are the worst. I'm sure that he knows it till this day. Like I never file. I'm unorganized.
Where is he today?
He's got his restaurant groups today scattered
He's
all
still
over
huge.
the US. Yeah, he's very big. He's not with the Smith & Wollensky restaurant group now.
But
he's
did
got
you
his-
ever have actually a restaurant here in
No,
Israel? No,
no,
right? Never.
right. When I came back to Israel, with my New Yorkish education, Aharoni, one of the biggest chefs here, introduced me to Rafi Cohen. Do you know him?
Yeah.
Rafi Cohen. He just he left Jerusalem, ready to open Rafael, his first restaurant in Tel Aviv.
Is Hilbert Samuel also his?
No,
No.
that's that
But
was
he was now in headlines because I think he went bankrupt or something
yes,
like that.
right. But
Like,
after
Really?
Yeah.
His name's like on every salad
yes.
in the supermarket.
Yes, he had some
Makes
really
sense.
he had some really really good years though at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I went to the first meeting with him, and I just came like everything I knew was from New York. So it was at his place, and I came with like makeup, skirt, like really nice shirt, jacket, high heels, and he opens the door in his pajamas. And like I'm like so overdressed. And at first, like the first few months in the restaurant, I was like running the office, and I was always overdressed. I mean, it took me years to like balance myself back to the Israeli style and the way we do it here. And to realize that in Israel, in order to have a restaurant, you just need a pulse. I mean, I thought you need education and you need experience and you need this.
Yeah.
Here, you need a pulse, and it doesn't have to be stable, too. So after working with him for a little bit, I got a job offer to write in Ma'ariv newspaper. And it was always a struggle for me to decide if I want to write or if I want to work with food. And I left food and went to writing. And at some point...
Is there a dream at some point to open a restaurant?
Now that you know how dangerous it is.
Exactly.
Suicidal.
In Israel, especially in Israel, there was a dream. Definitely. There was a dream of opening a restaurant. But the more I learned about it, the more I understood what it takes and the danger... the risk that you're taking, not just for you, but for your family, the people around you.
Maybe you'd be the first one to open, a restaurant with like good quality food and service.
I won't.
No?
No.
Why do you think that is? I mean,
it's like making a movie here in Israel. It reminds me like making a movie. Like it's completely, you have to be a complete lunatic to do that.
Yes.
But isn't that kind of like
There's
a
no money
place
to be
where
made.
you can? No, but that's exactly the place where you can kind of forge your way in the market, or like corner out a little slice of the market, is to like provide this amazing experience that just you don't find it here. Like every place is like high stress. There's no organization. There's no service. Opening like this,
but the risk is just too big, I guess.
First of all, I have to say I disagree with your observations about Israeli restaurants, but
but that's what we were talking about, the fact that the service here and the atmosphere is just this like
I think Israelis, yes, they are intense, but on the other hand, you'll get like the fun part. I mean, of course, it won't be as polite and polished as like if you go to one of the European fancy restaurants. No, you won't get that. But who wants that?
No, but not even the European. It's like, I remember as a kid, you go to the restaurants in America, and it's just, there's something like you were talking about. There's something soothing about it. You just like, it's nice and it's relaxing, and it's just people like, it's relaxation. That's what it is. People going out for a night to just have dinner and relax, and you walk into the restaurant, and from the first moment, it's not like high-end restaurants. From the first moment, someone seats you in the waiting room and gets you a glass of water or whatever and takes care of you, and they walk you nicely to your table.
Israelis,
and it's like,
I'm not sure they look for that.
No.
You don't think so?
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
Besides, here to start a restaurant, I think like you lose from the get-go because you're chained. You're chained by the rabbanut, by the ingredients. You have like half of the ingredients any European restaurant uses, you don't even have.
And the worst problem you have here is labor. I mean, that's
labor. Nobody wants to work. And then you have to illegally employ foreigners.
Even they work legally, but they're very, very expensive.
Yeah,
you pay like high taxes if you hire them. Yes.
So you need to be really So no Ruthie Rousso. But on the other hand, we got to talk about the fact that Israeli food is doing crazy. And now in New York, it's so trendy. We got Michael Solomonov here. How do you explain that?
Oh, Mike is in Israel now.
Ah, he is?
Yes. How do I explain that? Okay, I'm going back to my talk. I think it's all political. I think first of all, I have to say, objectively, I think Israeli food is very good. It has good PR, as we say. It's there's something a little wild, and it has some chutzpah, and it's colorful, and it's easy to promote. Okay, unlike if I had this like very gray, bland food, it would be a little more difficult to promote it. But this is very colorful and very a happy kitchen in a way. But I think, and I worked for many years, I worked as an ambassador of Israeli food, which is another thing that I love to do because I really believe in what I'm doing. I think through food you can introduce other aspects of Israel that people don't usually know. And I could tell, as I said, that you can learn how to like different kitchens that you haven't tried before if you're willing to. I felt that wherever I go, and I've been everywhere talking and introducing Israeli food, I'm talking about Beijing, Tokyo, Korea, Vietnam, Philippines, Italy, London, New York, Los Angeles, Turkey. Wherever I went, I felt that people, they love the food, but I think they love the food, not because I made it so good. They love the food because they really wanted to like Israeli food. And in that sense, I think that what people really think about Israel is a bit different than what they say about Israel.
What do you mean?
That you would see in the media, you would see in like international media, you would see a lot of criticism, and you would get the feeling that people hate us everywhere. But I think people respect us, and we have they're curious. They admire our strength. They admire the fact that we're so developed we've reached so much in such a short time. And other things that they know about Israel work on a different aspect on them than what they read on the news. And at the end of the day, they like Israel. They're pro-Israel. Even if when they sit with their friends, they might have some criticism and they might say something else. But
as long as they have the privilege to actually experience Israel in some level. So if they eat the food, like you said, or if they've met an Israeli, but if they haven't,
travel here.
Yeah. And if all they get is the media, then
even if what they get is the media, they're still like they would try it. They would try the Israeli food, and they most likely they would like it. It's easy to like. I'm being honest.
It's our best ambassador, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and especially, is it okay that we're so political? Are you fine with it? I think that whoever wants to open an Israeli restaurant in the States, during Trump era is the best time. I mean, because since he's pro-Israel, then this is the best time to open an Israeli restaurant.
And you can call it the Squad restaurant, or right? Or
Rashida's Kitchen.
Okay, so the book is out, and will it be translated to English?
It was translated. The original plan was to publish the book in English, not in Hebrew, because after traveling, after doing my thing a couple of times in the U.S., I felt that it would be right to have a book in English.
The demand is immense.
Right, and this is a very down-to-earth Israeli kitchen. I mean, Israeli recipes with ingredients from a supermarket, and even I did some adaptations for the English version, so you could, because I know the American supermarkets. I've lived there for a while.
Like, what's one of your favorite recipes here?
Oh God, this is making me hungry.
Oh, this is a great one. This one I love. This is a roasted chicken with like with grapes and chili peppers and vine leaves. I love this one.
Check this out, guys. This book is making me hungry, but I'm too lazy to make any of this.
It's pretty easy. Some of the recipes, most of them are very, very easy to make.
So will it be released eventually in America?
So that the English translation was so bad. I mean, the translator sent me a sample, which was excellent, but then the rest of the book was just Google Translate. It was ridiculous.
Okay.
So we decided not to wait for another translation. It takes a lot of time to translate a book and to publish it in Hebrew.
Will it?
What?
Will it be released eventually?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Okay.
Maybe someone can find me a publisher.
Actually, we have all kinds of listeners. So if
Yeah.
someone is interested,
And this is, then you guys can contact Ruthie Rousso. But this also, and we'll talk about how to get in touch with you in a
Yes.
bit. But it's also not just recipes. It's
Right,
stories.
many stories. Some of them hilarious, really. Some
Okay.
of them are really, really funny.
Okay, amazing.
how can someone get in touch with you?
I'm pretty easy to find. No, actually, I'm not because no one can spell my name. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, but you spell it Ruthie, like the Jewish ending, and my last name is Rousso, which no one gets. It's not Russo. Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll put links.
please.
And before we go, we have a collaboration with the Jewish Journal. It's a Jewish news outlet in Los Angeles. Check them out. It's jewishjournal.com. They have great articles, great podcasts. jewishjournal.com.
And guys, we do this on our free time. So if you want to help us out, we accept donations. Go to 2njb.com/donate. One last time, our sponsors, thechosenonegame.com. It's a really funny card game if you guys obviously saw at the beginning. And check out Ruthie's book and check her out.
It's good for gifts,
online.
for Hebrew,
Yeah.
Yes,
like family, people who
Yes.
speak Hebrew.
for the holidays.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank
for coming.
you. Thank you for
Bye.
having me.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.